And with us this morning to discuss one of the developing issues in South Australia, and that is that Senator Rex Patrick has, under Freedom of Information, sought to find out a little bit more about the South Australian government and its position in relation to the nuclear waste facility at Kimba. And Senator Patrick joins us now. Hi, Senator. How are you?
Good morning.
Tell us firstly, what is your request to the South Australian Government in relation to the nuclear waste facility at Kimba?
Yeah, so in August of last year, I sought access to any communication that may have taken place between the federal and state government in relation to the National Radioactive Waste Management Facility that was earmarked for Kimba. I wanted to see what the government had been talking about, the state government had been talking about in relation to this facility with its federal counterparts. Now, initially the FOI was effectively ignored. I didn't get an answer back, and that created what was called a deemed refusal. I then sought an internal review, got an answer from Minister Dan Van Hospelachan, and I didn't like the decision. I thought it was wrong, so I then took it to SACAT, which is our civil and administrative tribunal here in Adelaide.
And Senator, was the reason for the refusal, there's usually they say, it's intergovernmental relations, we can't be telling everyone what we're saying between governments. Was that the reason they knocked it back?
Well, you've guessed correctly. That is one of the reasons in which they knocked back access to the information. Now, of course, the starting point always ought to be that the state government is open and transparent with the public, so too is the federal government, and just because they communicate with each other, that doesn't change that situation. There has to be a reason why communications between governments are held confidential, and they have to be good reasons. And in this instance, I couldn't see a reason, and indeed the minister, in my view, had made a very technical error in law, which your listeners probably don't need to know about, but nonetheless, that's the reason why I appealed it to SACAT.
And it sounds like you got further than that, got to the Supreme Court, and they've ended up agreeing with your reasoning. Is that right?
Well, the matter was heard by SACAT, and because of the nature of the issues that were raised, the matter was heard by Justice Hughes, who is the president of SACAT. Now, she is also a Supreme Court justice, so I just want to be clear, the matter hasn't been to the Supreme Court yet, only to SACAT, with the president sitting on the matter. She just happens to be a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, I see. So, but nonetheless, she's made a ruling that I take it has knocked back the idea that it is secret because it's intergovernmental communication, and the government hasn't taken their opportunity to appeal it within the time frame. Is that right?
That's correct. So the relevance to Justice Hughes is she's clearly very experienced and very learned, understands the law very well, and on the 19th of May, she made a decision that the documents that I'd sought access to were not exempt under FOI. Now, at that point, that meant that I had a right of access to the document. It had been determined by a proper decision maker. Now, in the normal course of events, what you do is you simply wait out the appeal timeframe, which in this case was 30 days. So you give the government the opportunity to appeal. When they haven't, what they're supposed to do is then hand over the documents. Now, Minister Dan Van Hospelachan has not appealed, he has not sought a stay, he's simply not complying with the orders of the tribunal, and that's totally unacceptable.
So, Senator Patrick, why do you think the Minister in South Australia, who's presiding over the nuclear waste facility at Kimba, is not giving you the documentation?
Well, I can't explain it. It might actually be the case that Justice Hughes hasn't handed down her reasons, but that is not a lawful excuse not to withhold the documents. The proper course of action would be for the minister to seek a stay. The other alternative is, of course, we voted on legislation related to a site selection last week in the federal parliament. Perhaps he was delaying the release of the information until such time as that vote had taken place. That's a matter for the minister to answer. The point is, he has to be what's called a model litigant. He has to comply with the law properly. My only remedy now, and I've written to the Crown Solicitor, who is acting for the minister, and said, in effect, I've demanded the documents because I'm now entitled to them, and I might find myself lodging an application in the Supreme Court now, forcing the minister to hand over the documents. It's normally a criminal offence to not comply with an order of SACAT, but in these unusual circumstances, the Crown is immune from criminality in relation to this. So the only option I've got is to go to the Supreme Court and seek an order, either a declaration or a writ of mandamus, forcing the minister to comply with the law.
So, Senator Patrick, if you are so keen to find out what is in the documents, have you got some particular reason that you're aware of that there is something in those documents that needs to be made public?
Well, again, I sought access to a range of documents. I know basically what the content of the redacted material is because part of the letter has been made available to me. And indeed, the letter starts off. It's addressed to the Premier, and it's written by Federal Minister or then Federal Minister Matt Canavan, saying, "I write to you in your capacity as Minister responsible for Indigenous Affairs." Now, there's been a huge controversy around the Kimber site selection because the Bangala people have been involved in litigation. They don't want the facility there. And the letter, the bit that I can see, talks about Wallabadina Station, which was no longer one of the selected sites. That was the Andermatt people. The bit that's blanked out, or the remainder of the letter, doesn't talk about the Bangala people, and so it's pretty obvious. What's redacted is written correspondence in relation to that particular part of the issue.
So that would be something I imagine the government probably isn't keen to come out when lead up to a state election next March. Do you think they're going to be able to get away with keeping this under wraps and secret until then?
I don't think there's any chance of that. The fact of the matter is the FOI Act gives every South Australian a legally enforceable right for access to information. Everything the government does, it does on your coin, or on your listeners' coins, and for public purpose. The final ruling has been made in this matter. Justice Hughes has found the documents are not exempt under FOI. That means I am legally entitled to these documents, as is the South Australian public who I will share it with. This is now just recalcitrance on behalf of the minister refusing to hand over a document. We've seen this in the past where recommendations might be made by the Ombudsman to release information and they have been ignored by government officials. That is not proper. Government officials must comply with the law, and the ultimate remedy in this is to force a court to order the documents be handed over, and then if the minister doesn't comply, he would go to jail. But I should not have to do that.
So would you potentially have an ally in this in the state member for Giles, or the current member for Giles, because it's in his state electorate? Wouldn't the Labor Party be interested in this coming out into the air as well?
Oh, look, I think all of the public would be interested. I don't generally seek access to this information to necessarily help political colleagues. I don't mind when they assist, and Eddie Hughes has weighed in on this issue, so I'll give him credit for that. This is simply a case of South Australians are entitled to exercise their right for access to information that is theirs. The government is simply the custodian, and that allows anyone to participate in public debate. You can't participate in public debate if you're not well informed. One of the ways in which our laws allow us to be informed is to grant us access to government information if we request it.
So, Senator Patrick, have you had any correspondence about this from the sitting member for Grey, Rowan Ramsey?
No, I haven't. So again, this is in some sense a matter between myself and the minister. I do note that that Rowan Ramsey did turn up and watch from the gallery when the Senate was voting on the legislation last week. I know that he's very much in favour of the facility. He lives very, very close to it. But really, this particular matter is one of an individual, just happens to be a senator in this instance, and look, I am doing this on behalf of constituents, seeking access to information.
All right. Delicate topic, a nuclear waste facility in the outback, the Eyre Peninsula part of South Australia. We thank Senator Rex Patrick for joining us.
Thank you very much.